We're going to do something a little different. Right here we have Tony Aanon of Clean Ocean Surfboards. We've had a partnership since 1996, since the summer we opened, and we've been carrying his surfboards to this day. I would say in those 28 years, at least 25 of them, they've been our best-selling boards. And Tony grew up right here in Brick, surfing the beaches from, I would say, from the pier to Manasquan Inlet.
Yep, pretty much.
And then headed down to Jacksonville Beach, Florida for college. But we've had a good relationship. We've become more than just business partners. We've become close friends. And I just want to introduce him, and we want to talk a little bit about some of his boards. I'm going to turn it over to Tony just for his kind of an introduction on some dates and how long he's been doing this, how many boards he's got under his belt. The beauty of Tony, too, is that he does everything from start to finish, from shaping, glassing, coloring, airbrushing, resin work, the whole deal.
All right.
When did you start shaping? I know you were telling me about in your yard when you were a kid.
I shaped my first board when I was like 12, 13 years old in my yard after seeing my father's cousin shape some boards in his garage. But I didn't start shaping professionally until 1989 when we started Clean Ocean Surfboards.
Gotcha. So that's when COS started.
COS started.
Very cool.
Yep.
So what was that all about? Was it a partnership? I know you were telling me you spent some time in San Diego.
Yeah.
Learning the glass.
My college roommate wanted to quit school, and he figured if he had a plan, his father would let him quit. So we started COS, that was the plan. He eventually opened up a retail store in Jacksonville. We were together for probably 3 years. I left and went to San Diego for a while. When I came back, I took it over.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So flashback to 1996 when we opened over on the side street over here.
Yes.
Tony was coming through on a board run, and he stopped in the shop just to say hi and see what the shop was all about.
Yeah.
By the next summer, we had our shop full of COSs. Again, having grown up here, tons of guys that came through were just like, you got to start carrying Tony's boards. And what I loved about it is we'd get a guy that would order a shortboard like that, and then they'd come back and say, well, you did me right on that. Now what should I get for a longboard?
Right.
Or what should I get for when the
Yeah.
waves are small? And that's always been the true test to a legitimate shaper, is when you get a guy that comes back for another board for different conditions.
Well, when I came up shaping, you had to really shape whatever you could shape to make a living. So there's a lot of short boards being done at the time, fun boards. You could shape as many fun boards as you can make and sell them. For me, on the other hand, I always grew up shortboarding and logging at the same time too. So that's how I got into making logs also, because at that time in the 90s, not a lot of people were shaping logs.
Well, not a lot of people were even riding them.
No one was really riding them.
They kind of went away.
Matter of fact, it was your shop and Aquis were the only two stores I had, dealers at the time, that even allowed me to make logs for them.
No, that was cool. That was a good time. I know right when we opened, it was when longboards were starting to come back around again, and this area really needed a longboard shop. Or someone that at least focused on them.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the very first boards you sent me was it was a sawed-off nose. It's Jason Moat's model.
Jason Moat's model. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I broke it, but
Yeah. We did all right with that model for a while.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and we used to do tons of customs, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So flash forward to now.
Okay.
What have you seen has changed, and what's going on, in the whole, everything that's happening?
Well, now compared to the 90s, in the 90s we were very limited as far as how we could build a longboard because of the plank situation with Clark Foam. Now we have a lot more available as far as where we can go with the plank, so we could do a little bit something more traditional now. Wider, which that was always my problem. I always liked wider stuff. It was always hard. If I wanted to do like a 6.0 tombstone, I was taking it out of a 7.4 because I needed the width. So it just, in some ways it's easier blank-wise now to do different things. Their blanks are thicker, they're wider. foam is better. So we could do better boards. And I'm more skilled now, 30, whatever, something years later
Yeah.
than I was then. So
So we're going from a couple thousand boards when I first got here to 10,000, 12,000 now, right?
I'm about at 12,000. I
Very
think
cool.
when we met, I wasn't even at 2,000 yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Do you think there's any other Jersey shapers at that? It's kind of cool that you're from Jersey.
I have no idea.
If there are, there's not many.
Yeah,
That's for
yeah.
sure.
I don't think, a majority of those 12,000 were hand shapes. You just don't. My generation, I think, is the last generation that has pushed big numbers with the planer,
Starting from the beginning.
starting from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I don't know if, we'll see those days where shapers come up with big numbers of hand shape boards
Yeah.
anymore. I think those days might be behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think for me, part of the reason we sell so many of your boards is because you grew up right here. So when people want to look for a shaper, and a shop this size, we do a lot of custom orders.
Right.
When they want to look for a shaper, they want to know someone that knows our waves.
Yeah.
And I know for you, like even though you've been in Florida longer,
Yeah.
Jersey's where you started, and
Yeah.
Jersey's where
Yeah.
your heart is. You know what I mean?
It is
So
100%. Yes.
I think that's kind of cool.
And I spent a lot of time in the waters up here.
Yeah.
So I know. Well, granted, the surf has changed a bit since I lived here, but it's still Jersey's still Jersey to a certain point. And a lot of people don't understand. If you've never surfed here, you don't really understand what it is.
Yep.
You just don't have any clue.
I get lots of travelers coming
Yeah.
through, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, I'm from
Yeah.
wherever, California most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I can handle this." And then
Yeah.
they realize, "Uh-oh,
Yeah.
it's a whole different ball game in our beach break."
When I first started to travel when I was young, I used to think about all these other places, and I used to remember thinking, well, if Jersey's like this place has got to be insane. It's got to be so difficult. When I'd get there, I'd be like, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
I was used to taking the punches.
No, it makes sense to